Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask an Agile Coach. I'm Andrea Fryrear, CEO and co-founder of AgileSherpas, and I'm joined today by Aaron Stewart, who has generously offered to share some of his coaching wisdom with us. Aaron, you want to tell everybody a little about yourself and what you do when I'm not roping you into weird Zoom rooms?
Sure. Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. My name is Aaron Stewart. My business experience spans about 30 years, and it includes launching several startups, full-scale product development for retail mass market, and most recently leading enterprise transformation initiatives at Fortune 100 company.
So you don't do anything hard, like enterprise transformation. That's easy. You do it real fast and it's over.
I just kind of did a kind of reflection on my life journey, my career journey, and oh my gosh, like all of it is hard. And I think it's really kind of what made me the unique coach that I am today. Having to deal with a lot of uncertainty, making career moves, has just kind of positioned me well for how to help people navigate change and uncertainty in a business environment. So
That's really cool. And so how did you
yeah,
get into coaching? Where did that kind of come into your career path? Have you always been a coach or did that show up later?
it showed up later. It is the third career iteration. Before that, I was an entrepreneur, and before that, I was in biomedical research. But after I kind of wound down my business after the financial crisis, 2007, 2008. I was starting a new family. I couldn't be on the road and grinding, trying to grow a business, and so I had to reinvent myself. And so I thought about what would the next iteration of Aaron look like, and it had a lot more to do with people and connection with humans than it did with selling and creating products. And so I always had a passion for technology. I went back and got a degree in IT management and set my target on a particular employer that I would enjoy working for. And then that opportunity presented itself. And the coaching opportunity came probably more as a shock and a surprise than my original intention. I joined, and shortly after I got in my role, there was a huge shift in perspective, in ways of working. It was really kind of a crisis, but there were several people who were able to come together and kind of open up a door for me into this transformation that had begun. And I guess the rest is history. You kind of trial by fire, learn by doing, and growing from a really difficult situation.
That's really cool. That's a great story. So you've been a coach for a while. You've also been in roles where you weren't coaching. So you've been on kind of both sides of the table, let's say. What do you think the value of coaching is when people are going through a change? It can be an agile transformation or really, I've had other folks that I've had conversations with in this context who have likened it to like training for a marathon for the first time, right? That's a big change. A coach is helpful. So from your perspective, why coaching? Why is that a valuable piece of change, whatever that change might be?
I think the most critical aspect about coaching is the transformational effect of the relationship. I mean, you can see an additive change, like we're just going to do more of certain things, but there is a transformational aspect of change that really is the sweet spot for coaching. And so when we are asking people to change the way they're working or adopt or considering adopting new ways of working, it's not an additive change. It's not another meeting or another routine. It is transformational. Let's rethink all of these things, and let's try and reevaluate the landscape that we're trying to operate in and trying to optimize all of those things at once. So it's pretty challenging,
Mhm.
but there's just a lot of creativity to the role, and I think that that's what I love most about it.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question is what's your favorite thing about coaching? So is it that free form kind of creativity?
It is. There's a quote that stuck with me that was on the wall of my childhood friend's home. And I never understood it until I was older, but it said something along the lines of art is not what you see, but what you must make others see.
Oh.
And it just, it's so applicable to what we do as coaches because we're all looking at the same information and we're all trying to, gather this shared perspective. But there, from a coach, there is an intentional shift in perspective to try and look at things differently. Almost like, the stereograms where you have to stare at the poster until you see the 3D image pop out. That's what coaches do. And that's the kind of the magic of coaching is when you're able to see that shift where, the kind of like the light clicks on and you see that shift in perspective. That's just an amazing feeling.
That's great. Yeah. And then you have to teach somebody else how to do the stare at the right spot and move it around thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. I like that. So
Yeah.
then from your perspective, what's the hardest thing about coaching?
The hardest thing about coaching is actually not being able to see the change. The changes are really slow. Sometimes they're very subtle, and sometimes they don't happen in the environment until long after you're gone.
Hmm.
And so it's hard to determine, whether you had an impact on someone's thinking. It's easier to see if you've had an impact on their behavior, but we don't know what the motivation is for changes in behavior all the time. And so, there are times where it feels like it's just a tough slog every day. I'm trying to figure out a different angle where I can influence some change, but sometimes you just don't see the result.
Like you planted the seed, but you don't get to see the tree sometimes.
Yes, very much that.
Yep. No, that's very true. Being a consultant, it's the same sort of thing. You go in and you do a lot of work with a client and then you leave and you don't always get to see the finish line moment, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
So before I got into coaching myself, I had never been coached, right? I had never had access to a coaching relationship. And a lot of the clients that I've worked with and we work with at AgileSherpas, we're the first coaching relationship they've had. So I always like to ask people, what advice would you have for someone who is engaging with a coach so that they can make the most of that relationship and get the most out of the time with a coach?
Yeah, for that, I would say that most relationships, operate within the same parameters, right? Whether it's a coaching relationship or familial relationship or a collegial relationship, the same foundational principles apply. You have to have a genuine interest in each other. Um, you have to be open and honest and vulnerable about what you think and feel. Um, and I think, it's really about investing in the relationship, not trying to extract knowledge or trying to get to a place, but it's really, putting enough into the relationship that it actually has a, sort of, uh, you know, uh, a multiplicative effect on, or an amplifying effect on your ideas, on your motivation. I think that's, probably the most fascinating part about the coaching relationship. So find somebody you trust. It doesn't have to be a formal coaching relationship, somebody who can actually see greater potential in either your ability to perform in a certain at a certain task or build a skill, or seeing greater potential amongst a group of people to overcome a situation. But it's really that visionary aspect of what a coach might see in you, that is, I think, the thing that's kind of starts the magic.
Yeah, that's great. So people, kind of coming to be an equal partner in the coaching relationship, not expecting the coach to kind of do all the heavy lifting for you.
Not expecting the coach to do the heavy lifting or all of the thinking. So I think a good coach can stimulate good thinking, stimulate a range of questions that lead, that can, open up your curiosity and lead down a path of discovery with the coach, instead of looking to the coach for answers. But it's really about, what kind of powerful questions can you generate with a coach that can open up doors.
That is a perfect segue into the kind of big topic that we are going to work on together today, which is all about AI and coaching, because we have to talk about AI. It's sort of a requirement, right? It's everywhere and it's impacting all kinds of roles and industries and job descriptions and everything. So I love what you just said about really like the superpower of a coach is generating questions and different ways of thinking. Whereas I think I don't purport to be an AI expert, but I think a lot of us treat AI as like an answer machine, right? Especially the way that kind of Chat GPT is easily accessible these days. I put in a question, it spits out knowledge, right? A big collection of knowledge. So with that filter, maybe thinking about AI as what it is right now, how does it work with coaching? Is this something that is threatening to a coaching relationship? Like, might coaching be replaced by these kinds of back and forth exchanges? Can it be a supplement? How do we think about AI and coaching?
I don't think much about it very, very often. And I love the idea that AI can be thought of as an answering machine, where coaches can be thought of as good question machines. But I think the biggest thing is, coaches have the advantage of being able to observe how you interpret information. Um, and so AI might be able to supply that information, but a coach can actually generate insights about how you understand that and help you apply what you learn to great effect.
Mm.
And so AI can't really, I don't know that AI can help you apply knowledge.
Right.
And even if it ever does, I don't know that it can do it in a way that a person could, to understand how to apply that at the at great effect.
Right. So do you see any detrimental potential? Like we think about, especially in Agile, right? It's all about the team and the people in a lot of ways, of bringing them together and collaboration, psychological safety, open lines of communication. Do we see AI as somehow threatening to those human connections, or do we think it can, I don't know, do you see a way that AI can help supplement or grow those opportunities for connection?
I think so. I think, in a very similar way that um, cell phones sort of transformed the world by making information much more accessible. Now everything is in the palm of your hand, whereas, if you go back in time, it was like, well, we had to go back home and turn on the desktop and wait for it to fire up in order to, access information. And then before that, it was like, oh, go home and crack open the thesaurus or a dictionary. AI just, takes that a little bit further into the future, where you can have access to information more readily, and it probably in a much more um, structured um, response to a very specific question, instead
Mm.
of instead of browsing for information, you can actually specify the information that you want returned to you. So it could be really helpful in sort of real time access to information when you're working through a challenge where it's like, I just need to know, I need to better understand what's happening here and what concepts we need to kind of delve into. And I think that can be very complementary to a coach. So you mentioned psychological safety, and one of the things that I build into my coaching practice is to talk about how um, engagements are designed for psychological safety. When I'm putting on a coaching engagement, but people may not understand what psychological safety means in that context. So it might be important to let's just level set on, a common definition of psychological safety so that we all understand where we're coming from. And then I can talk about how it's actually applied in this situation. So I'm going to, put you through some activities. For example, instead of asking people questions that they can respond to verbally, I'll ask them to write down their responses. Number one, that accommodates different communication styles for people who have some challenges with their language or challenges just speaking in a group setting. Now you can write your thoughts without interruption. It also helps people kind of slow down their thinking, so there's not just um, a knee-jerk response, but now you have to actually stop and think about it. It creates safety in that everybody can contribute, and so just those kind of things where I can just go to AI really quickly and say, hey, just pull up a framework on psychological safety so we can have some basic definitions and then move straight into how these definitions apply to this specific situation.
Right, right. And then we'll keep using maybe that psychological safety example. The coach can read the room, right? And see that, maybe I'm showing more like fearful, kind of uncomfortable body language, whereas someone else might be like, that sounds cool and fun and is really engaged in the exercise. Well, then you can know that maybe you need to work with me in a different way, or there's something going on here that we're going to need to probe and explore. And yeah, you can get to those really powerful moments maybe a little faster, because like you said, you're not spending time rehashing and coming to a shared understanding. We can start more quickly from a moment of shared understanding and then get into the messy human stuff that AI can't help us with.
Yes, I would take a human coach partner over an AI companion any day. And I'll add a little bit of a story to underscore your point about reading the room. And I was fortunate enough to have a number of coaching engagements that that involved multiple coaches. So we tried to make a practice of having at least two coaches on some engagements, and in one specific engagement, I was actively leading the group through some discussion, and the other coach was observing and reading the room. And she just basically said, let's just take a pause and come back in 15 minutes. And so we went to huddle, and she's like, you don't know how close people are to tears right now. And so I needed to kind of stop that. And now we need to both go and address the person or group of people that were feeling these really strong emotions. It was really a situation where a large monolithic platform was built in a way that kind of shut out a group of users unintentionally, and it became very obvious in that moment that was what was happening, and I couldn't see it. And so there's no AI that's going to tell you that people are feeling like their baby just got destroyed, and we need to do something about that.
Right. And even if they, thinking about maybe future iterations of it, even if it could read facial expressions or body language or something, you've got to be there to help those people process and work through whatever is coming up for them. And then it's going to have impacts on the larger team. And yeah, there's all kinds of ramifications through that. Yeah, I love the partner coach thing as well. It's a great addition.
Yeah, you would never, a coach would never say, well, I understand how you're feeling. You should go talk to your AI right now and see, see if you can get a virtual hug.
You know what'll make you feel better? Go have a
Right.
conversation with ChatGPT. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really great. No, I think that's probably the answer for a lot of folks, right? I've heard the sort of trite advice now is AI is not taking your job, but somebody who knows how to use AI will take your job. And coaches are probably in a similar boat, right? Think about how you can be more efficient and more effective and use your human superpowers to greater effect by leaning on this thing that knows a lot of simple answers, right? And then coaches are there for powerful questions and meaningful conversation and really looking at opportunities for driving change forward. And we can spend more time doing that if we're not spending a lot of time teaching basic concepts.
Yeah, and I think coaches would be wise to focus their mastery on the human elements of group dynamics and how work gets done. It's really through connection, personal connection, interhuman, interpersonal, um, uh, intra-team. It's connecting people's thoughts, making sure that that we understand uh, the range of complex concepts that need alignment in order for people to actually move forward together as a group. And relying on AI gives the false sense that the answer to any of the problems is just knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a knowledge gap that we have to fill that can take us to higher levels of performance. It's achieving an impact, and there is no straightforward formula that we can apply to get higher performance.
Well, I think that is a great place to leave it. This has been a fascinating discussion, Aaron. I really appreciate your time. Anybody who is watching and has incorporated AI into your coaching practice, we'd love to hear from you in the comments about what you're doing and what's working and what we didn't think to discuss here today. And we can come back to this topic. No doubt it is not going away. And we're going to continue to figure out how AI makes us better coaches. So Aaron, thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me. I had a great time. Thank you, Andrea.
Awesome.